My name is Hal Yocum. Um, I live in Oklahoma at the present time, and I've been a friend of Dell Loaders for maybe 30 some, working on 40 years, since the 70s, I think. Um, I met him kind of accidentally because I was involved with a group in the Order of the Arrow. It was called CAG, which stood for Ceremonial Advisory Group. And we were sort of independent scouters, mostly young at the time, if you can imagine. We're talking about the 70s, 60s and 70s. And one or two of them had decided that the OA ceremonies were at the best okay, and that they could be a lot better if the participants, in terms of the ceremonialists, took them more seriously and really learned their parts and took a little bit of time to act it out. They started writing pamphlets and circulating them at area meetings and sectional meetings, those kind of things. One of the guys that they had met and worked with up in the Northeast subsequently moved to Hawaii, where I was stationed in the Army. And he kind of got a hold of me and found out that I was really interested in ceremonies, and I'd been a ceremonialist as a kid. I read their literature, and then I slowly got introduced to the other people in CAG who were very, very talented thinkers and writers. However, we were we were doing it on our own. We didn't have anybody's approval, and it caused a little friction here and there. We were helping at one of the NOACs, and I was doing some training. Unbeknownst to me, Dell was sent to observe me as a trainer because somebody had reported me, I guess you'd say, that I was one of those CAG guys. After he listened to my presentation, he came up and introduced himself to me and talked to me about my training style and how did I learn that and that kind of thing. And we became really brothers in the OA who were interested in ceremonies. And he sort of was a mentor. He's probably 15 years older than me. Just about every NOAC after that and a lot of other training sessions, our group, the CAG, was asked to be involved in ceremonial training. Dell was our liaison to the National OA Committee. And it turned out that instead of being something they had to worry about, it was something that they actually came to appreciate. And over the years, our group developed almost everything that we have in the current OA ceremony basket. We got ceremonies to become a part of NOAC. And ceremonial competition was a way to do that. It went down all the way to the section level, and when lodges went to a section meeting, they would compete in doing ceremonies. Over the years, Dell and I not only became friends in that way, we just became personal friends. When I was on trips that took me through Seattle, if I had a 2 or 3 hour layover, he'd meet me in the airport. And then in those days, you could get in to see the people who were waiting out there. You can't do that anymore. And when he was in my area for whatever, I would go pick him up, and we'd just sit and talk in the airport. And at NOAC, sometimes we were roommates. At some of the national meetings, we decided to take a lot of the excursions together that they used to have after the meetings. One time we were at a national meeting in Washington, D.C. We went to visit Mount Vernon. I had previously visited Mount Vernon when I was working in Washington, D.C. and also up at Johns Hopkins for my, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and I took extra training in hand surgery at Hopkins. Having been through Mount Vernon, I said to Dell, well, you go and take the tour of the house because, it's a line, you have to wait for that, and I'll go do the grounds. And I started walking all over the grounds, and it wasn't too long later till I heard the sirens. I didn't have any idea what they were. And when I finally got back to the buses, which was our rendezvous point, everybody said, Hal, your friend Dell passed out. And they took him to the hospital. And he had to stay there for a couple of days till we got everything straight. I kind of was a liaison on the phone with his scout executive and some friends in the area of Washington, D.C., so we could go to his hotel room and collect his stuff. In other words, we just became, I guess you'd say, buddies. And that lasted everywhere we went. Over the years, we were just best of friends because we both loved scouting and we loved the Order of the Arrow and we liked the ceremony part. And our thought patterns about improving the ceremonies to the point where we were doing the national competitions was working. All the ceremonies had gotten rid of the hazing, the tap out, which sometimes was a knockout. It got so rough in different places, it became a call out instead of a tap out or a knockout. And so the ceremony started to have a lot more meaning, and we succeeded. I was his guest at the table for the big banquet for the presentation of the DSA awards, and then later watched him give his acceptance speech for the Lifetime Achievement Award. And he really had put a lot of effort into what he was going to say to all the brothers in the Order of the Arrow. He got such a standing ovation, you can't imagine what it was like. Because he wasn't just like this to me. He was he was like this to everybody. All the guys in CAG and scouts and leaders, everywhere he was involved in scouting, that's the way he was. I mean, he was just a friend to everybody.